Hey, welcome everybody. Take a second to just look around and lock eyes with someone maybe you haven't seen for a while. Say hi. And then, there's some new folks in the room, so what we're going to do is on the count of three, everyone's going to say their name, okay? Just on the count of three, everyone say their name, and then we'll all know each other. It'll be super great, okay? 1, 2, 3, Steve. Now we all know each other. It's super great. Hi to the people on Zoom. Let me see if I can give some shout outs. Bill and Kim Gabby, Claire Lonsbury, Denise Cook all the way from Phoenix. Hi, Denise. Elizabeth Muckelstead, the Goodwins, Hannah, Steve and Jenny Gullickson, Jill and Joe Ruff, Joe, maybe Joe Tim, maybe Joe Dutcher, Julie Barczyk, Lori and Ron, Mary and Tom, Matt and Danica. Oh, the Grangers. Hopefully I can see that sweet little Cullen, too. Raji Answer, Light Buddy, Sherry Lee, Will Lee, Kara. Wait a minute. Oh, you're here because you're here. And Steve Shawnee. Okay, you're here because you're here. It's fun. I have to also say I got some really fun birthday presents this year because this was my birthday yesterday, 51. Monday, actually. Yep. And in case some of you haven't heard of my obsession with English football club, Leeds United. They're in 15th on the table now, but this is a Leeds United sweatshirt. And so, thank you, Mary. It's so fun. Okay, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to hear some updates. We're going to hear an update from Allie about the kids and teens ministry stuff, fun. We're going to hear a financial update from Andrew, which will be fun. And then we'll also hear from Pam. We've been starting a partnership with Brothers Empowered and Minister Charles Kane, who we're going to hear preach on the 21st, so that's going to be super fun. So Pam's going to give us another little update about some of the ways that we're partnering with him and them. And we got some breakfast coming up, so we have some tangible ways for people to help and to volunteer, and you'll hear more about that. So that'll be cool. And then I'm going to lead us through a little reflection time. I'm going to lead us through 4 questions, the great, amazing 4 questions that Allie sent out to the kids. And I'm going to read those questions so you can just kind of be thinking about them. And for those of you who are on Zoom, we're going to have you just type out your chat, or type out your comments in the chat, and then we'll read those out loud. For those of you in the room, we're actually going to have a mic come around. Allie's going to come around with the mic so you can make your comment into the mic so that those who are on Zoom can hear your words, not an interpretation of your words. So here are the 4 questions. This is what God looks like and sounds like to me these days. That's a great question. Number 2, one thing I love about our church community. Great question. Number 3, one thing I miss about our church community. And then 4, one thing I wish we could do differently. So that's going to start our conversation. And the hope is tonight for just a real sense of naming reality and free to be honest, free to feel no shame if you've not been in the room for a bunch of months. It is totally fine. And if you're on Zoom and you haven't been here in a bunch of months, that is really, really fine and okay and awesome. We just love it that you're participating tonight. And so we want to name some reality, and we want to hear from you, whatever you is, whatever your experience is, whatever your reality is. And then Pam's going to lead us through some remembering our mission, vision, and values, and then asking some questions about how we might tangibly be the church together as we move forward into the future in this uncertain reality. So that's going to be a great conversation too. And I'm so grateful for Pam's leadership during this time, because very few board chairs are going to lead toward this kind of conversation versus we got to just maintain everything that we've done in the past and we have to work hard to keep the status quo. She's coming at it from a very different perspective, and I think you're going to find it really refreshing. So thank you so much, Pam. And then we're going to try to gather in a circle and close in prayer, seeing each other. And those of us that are on Zoom, you can be a part of that circle as well. Sound good? Any questions before we move on? All right, I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to invite Allie up to give an update. Creator, sustainer, and redeemer, God, thank you for being with us all along the way. Thank you for being with us now and here. Thank you for leading and guiding us as we have these conversations. And may we remember what we need to remember. May we name what we need to name. And may your presence be with us the whole way. Amen. All right, let's give it up for Allie Lee.
Hey, everyone. This is usually my bedtime, so we'll see how my brain works. I was trying to think about, I feel like it's so open-ended, update on kids and teens. And well, we've got them. We have kids and we have teens, and they're awesome. Raise your hand if you are a kid or a teen. That's right, that's right. Woo! Everybody give it up. Even on the TV, yes. We have just the most amazing kids and teens here in Genesis, and we are so, so lucky. So if you might remember, I came on in this role January, 7 years ago, it feels like, but 2020, to start a middle school ministry, and that, played out as it played out, but we've slowly been building it from the ground up, and this summer and fall-ish, we really got into hanging out and having fun together. And just two of them are right here. Say hi to the world. But we're just chilling, we're having fun, we're hanging out, and we're still looking for grown-ups who want to show up and be a part of these kids' lives. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, they've just been really awesome. And so far they've all been outdoors except for one, and so we're trying to balance COVID and winter, and who knows what that's gonna look like, but sledding, probably, most likely. And then for kids, I don't know. Come on, brain. Okay, so Nate, I have a slide. So you might see this in the Sunday morning rotation of slides, or maybe you just tune that out and have no idea. So we've kind of, trying to figure out how to do kids ministry again has been just probably one of the hardest things. Just with, now kids are able to be vaccinated, but for so long it wasn't, and even still 4 and under cannot be vaccinated yet. So really just holding it all very loosely, and kids and teens deserve a space in church and on Sunday mornings that's their own, and a place where they can just feel free to be their wiggly, silly selves. So we've kind of been walking through this model. We started off in phase 1, September 19th, I think, the Sunday after Steve came back. And so we have a wiggle space in the narthex during the Sunday morning, and then I've been leading a activity for the kids of all ages during the sermon time out in the narthex. And so we're really feeling we're reaching sort of the limits of that space, and so soon we'll hopefully be moving into phase 2, which is essentially that same model, but just during the sermon we're down in the parlor instead of in the narthex. So that's good news for kids, because then I don't have to keep being shh, inside voices. So we can just be fun and crazy and silly. And so, as of right now, probably you're all wondering about kids' classes. That is still probably a little further off in our future, which is such a bummer. We're mostly waiting on just volunteers and more vaccines. Because again, most of our kids are pretty young in that 4 and under, or at least have siblings who are in that 4 and under. And so, the coronavirus, it is what it is. Anything else? So, okay. Any questions? Great question, Nate. Nate asked, how many volunteers do we need to get the next phase going? So phase 2. Ideally, like 3 to 5. Because I would love it to be where, like I don't have to be down there every Sunday doing the thing. And like I want to be able to empower our community to all together pour into the lives of these amazing kids. So yeah. Any other questions? Is there any on Zoom? I realize I can't see the Zoomies. Well, thank you. All right. Yes. Oh my gosh, thanks, Rebecca. You're always saving me here. So if you wanted to volunteer, if you're sitting there like, oh, maybe that sounds like fun, you can shoot me an email, aliel@genesiscov.org, or you can catch me after or whenever, and then we'll just like talk and we'll make it happen, I guess. Oh my gosh, you guys, you're really saving me here. The commitment. Oh, I promise I'm good at my job. Commitment for the Sunday morning kids is a super easy commitment. It is like 30 minutes, one Sunday a month, and it's just during the sermon time. So you'd still be in the service all the way up through announcements and then come back for Eucharist. And then everything for the activity is all prepped for you, so you really just have to show up and hang out and have fun and play for 30 minutes. And then for the middle schoolers, right now we're on an every other week basis, usually about hour and a half to 2 hours on a Friday evening. But then that along with like just investing in the lives of our kids through texting and Caribou. So, am I forgetting anything else? Okay. Well, you can always email me if you have any questions. I will hand it off to Pam.
Thanks, Allie. Well, hello, everyone. It's so good to be together and see so many faces on Zoom and here. I'm really thrilled to talk about our relationship with Charles Kane and Brothers Empowered. The more I get to know him, the more I just love the man, and I love his heart and all that he's engaged in. And I can't wait for you to hear from him on the 21st because it's just really fun and positive what he's doing. We hear a lot of negative stuff in the world going on. It is going on. It's great to hear somebody that's really making good things happen and good things possible. So that's a little bit about Charles. But Brothers Empowered, we are starting this month to host a series of 3 Saturday morning sessions with his organization called Youth Empowered. It's young men in his ministry. And they'll have breakfast and then a meeting. And I just want to read what his agenda is for them because it's pretty cool. Their group session, Youth Empowerment Curriculum, which focuses on building leadership and character, finding passion, purpose, and direction for youth participants, utilizing mental conditioning to help them discover self and manifest their passion and their purpose into existence. Can I sit in? I want to go. It sounds really good. So he'll have all these young gents here for that. And then after that, they have 2 hours of open basketball, which for those of you that were able to participate with the basketball sessions we had in the summer, wow, it's really fun. There's a love of basketball. The parents, the dads were there with some of the little kids. I mean, it was awesome. So that's just something that is freeing for them, I think, to have a space here at Elam that's safe, that's open to them, people are kind of serving them, and they can just play basketball to their heart's content. It's delightful. So that's an opportunity for volunteering, and Kara can give you some more information of that, and maybe when we talk about the other things, I'll have you come up and talk about it. But it's November 30th, December 4th, and December 18th, and she'll give you more information. We're looking for how to build this relationship with Charles, because he's involved in so many different things that it felt like we need to kind of step gently into it and kind of feel for what works for us and where it makes sense for us to be involved, where it doesn't. And so we want to form a steering committee that will work with Charles. It's a once-a-month commitment. Just a handful of people here from Elam that would meet with Charles, hear his heart and all the things he's engaged in now or thinking about being engaged in, but he hasn't had the ability to do it because he needs, more resources. So if that's something you're interested in, Kara can talk about that. And then there's also an opportunity to volunteer directly with Charles. He has more in his head than his body and his time will allow him to do. And I can just see that there's a lot that we may be able to help him with in terms of mentoring for him personally, also within his organization, marketing, technical things, his website. There's just a lot that we can do to help his ministry flourish. And it's amazing what he's done kind of on his own. So I'm excited about how we might be able to engage there. So with that, Kara, why don't you come up and talk about how people can volunteer?
Thanks. Okay, I'm Kara. I think I know most of everyone in here. But like Pam said, we have some really great ways that if you're interested in the awesome work that Charles is doing in the Metro, we can kind of help be partners in that in really tangible ways. And I know some of you in this room have volunteered this fall end of summer when we did the basketball camps. If you did, do you want to raise your hand? Yes. And was it we do this at home a lot. Was it a thumbs up, sideways? Yeah.
Double thumbs up.
Yeah. It was a great chance. We learned a lot, I feel like, in those few moments,
Got
in
to
those few
meet
weeks.
NFL great Tyrone Carter. If you were there that
Yes.
night, he came and was a speaker.
And we learned just a lot about volunteering in settings outside of the setting that sometimes we control ourselves. So it was really great on a lot of levels. And there was lots of time for good conversation with kids. And we saw some really good basketball. And I don't even really like basketball, but it was real fun. So anyway, so actually probably right now on the Facebook community page, the link should be live with the form on how to volunteer for the 3 upcoming ones. They are Saturday mornings. There are ways that you could come help set up. You could help clean up. If you don't feel comfortable volunteering in person, I've added a couple of ways that you could donate fresh fruit for the breakfast or bottled beverages. You would not believe, maybe you would believe how many, like teenage boys and Gatorade and bottled water. Come on. So there are some good tangible ways that you can kind of be part of what's going on, whether you can be there in person or not. It'll be in the email that you'll get, the weekly email tomorrow, and in the liturgy this week, the link for that. Pam also mentioned the other ways that we can kind of lean into that partnership with Charles and Brothers Empowered and Youth Empowered. You can certainly shoot an email to her or to myself if you're interested in being on that steering committee, or connecting with Charles on ways to help volunteer with him. And I know that at least the last time the 3 of us met together, I had my old nonprofit hat on, and it was exciting to think about the ways that you could help this awesome work kind of get a little more grounding. If you have experience in grant writing,
So I'm Andrew Lonsbury, been an elder for a little over 2 years, been your financial officer for a little over 1, and that is why I get to deliver the news. So have a finance update, have a couple slides to walk us through that. I think just to preface it, what I wanted to do tonight was take a little bit of a look back at where we've been, where we are right now, and I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time talking about forecasting or budgets. I'm going to touch on it a little bit, but given that we're going to have this kind of forward-looking vision conversation next, I wanted to just give us all kind of the backdrop of what's happening right now and what you need to know maybe going into that conversation. Next slide. So I did my darndest to make this as large as I could so that folks in the back could see and follow along. But you guys on Zoom, you might have a little bit of the upper hand here to see this. But we're looking at tithes by month going back to July 2020. So a little less than 18 months. This is, a couple months into the pandemic. And this is just graphing it month by month, and I've put on here kind of some peaks and valleys and what we've seen. This is just tithes, so this is just revenue. What's not on here is expenses for two reasons. One is it made it even harder to see from in the back, but two is it's been pretty average right at $25,000. That's been the expense line. So you can almost take this line in the middle, the horizontal line across your screen, and it's, of course, fluxed a little bit, and we have some quarterly expenses, but it's averaged out almost exactly at $25,000 over this period. So if you look at the blue line, generally, if we're above the $25,000 line, there's a net income or a gain. If we're below that line, there was a little bit of a cash loss for that month. So you've seen a little bit of up and down, and you see last spring we hit the lowest point over the period of about 21,000. That's somewhat common for March, we've seen, but the good news was pretty quickly in the spring things started to bounce back a bit. In early May, we talked about our budget for the next year. We talked about 5 priorities. That included investing in kids and teens, which we heard about. It included investing in missions in our community, as Pam and Kara shared about. And that's really, those are some of the priorities going into this year. And we really asked the congregation, will you invest in this? Will you go further if you're already giving? Or if you're not giving, will you start? Will you make a monthly giving plan? And we saw really a pretty nice response right away. You see this big spike here. That was the end of our fiscal year. We had a few folks, or a handful of folks, honestly, I don't know how many, that made one-time gifts that helped jump that number. But we continue to see a little bit of an increase for the first 3 months into the fiscal year. So if this is hard to see for folks in the room, I'm pointing at July right now. And from between March and July of this year, we went from 21,000 per month in tithes to about 26,500. So we gained 5,500 or so over that period. Now, more recently than that, and in the last 3 months, if you've been following along on the weekly emails, a couple weeks ago, we sent out a communication. A couple Sundays ago, we talked about this during announcements on Sunday morning. That just in the last 3 months, we've seen that start to dip a little bit back down, closer to where we were in March, still a little bit ahead. So August was a little bit lower, September was a little bit lower yet. October came in right about where September was, so about $22,000 per month. So that is a little bit of a decline, and maybe what's more, if there is bad news in this, it's that part of our budgeted plan was to actually see a ramp up going into into the new year. So we'd budgeted for 27,000, 28,000. We're now seeing about 22,000 going into towards the new year. So that is what it is, and there's maybe a number of reasons for that. Maybe most notably, we did this budget back in May when masks were coming off and things were opening back up, and we just pictured a little bit different year than we're having. So that's certainly part of it, and we have seen some monthly giving plans go away, and things like that. So we're still watching very carefully. I want you to know that we're watching it very carefully. And it's also, it's not a time to panic either. Some of us that have maybe been part of Genesis for a long time, maybe even since the beginning, you know that, was it 2018, we had a pretty difficult time financially. We were spending more than we were taking in consistently. We ran our cash balance pretty low, and we had to make some hard, painful decisions. And what I want to share with you going into the next slide is that that was a very different time than what we're seeing right now. So here's a cash balance slide. And I wanted to share this because we don't own a building. We have a pretty simple balance sheet. We don't have any debt. So talking about our cash balance really is kind of one of the best indicators of our financial health as a church. And so I wanted to go back to and just show this Q1 of fiscal year 2019 was like the fall of 2018, when we were kind of right in this really difficult time financially. We had about 1 month of expenses in the bank at that time. So I'm pointing to the far left of this graph and showing about $27,000 of cash at the end of that quarter. And you can see that we made some hard decisions and it built up over time. You see a pretty big jump. Quarter 3 of fiscal year 20, this was April or May of right as the onset of the pandemic, we were granted a PPP loan, and we qualified for that. We used that for the intended purposes, for keeping our staff, and that increased our bank balance pretty dramatically. That's since been forgiven. So that's the main driver for getting us up to a pretty healthy cash position, 4 to 5 months that we've had in the bank. And as you've seen, we've kind of fluctuated around that $25,000, which has been our expenses. So net, we've stayed very steady in our cash balance. As of October, so whatever that is, 10 days ago, we had $106,000 in our bank account. So that's good news. I think it's really the staff managing this really well in a time where there's a lot of volatility and unknown and uncertainty. I think there's maybe some grace of God in there too, that things have just stayed very, very steady, and we do have some good. We have a healthy cash reserve, so it's about 4 months. If you're in the business world or you own or run a business or around that, you might think like 6 to 12 months is a typical like healthy cash reserve. As elders, we've talked about this a bit, and first of all, this is about as healthy as we've been, or as healthy as our cash account has been. But also, again, we don't own a building. We don't have really expensive things that can break. We don't have a roof that we might have to replace unexpectedly. So maybe the most expensive thing we have that we might have to replace unannounced is like our sound equipment, or I don't know, knock on wood, our Zoom equipment that just went out. Whatever that is. So that would be like the most unexpected expense that we would have. Otherwise, things are pretty predictable. Our staff, our payroll is our biggest expense. So we've been comfortable with. If you want to go to the next slide, down here at the bottom, I'm jumping to the conclusion. But we've had a target. It's not a policy, but a target of about 3 months of cash reserve, kind of on an ongoing basis. We really tried to, we got to 4 months, and we were really trying to stay there for the past 6 months or so, and we have, so that's been great. Just wrapping this up, my wife is on Zoom, so you wouldn't be able to hear her, but if you could, she'd be saying, your graphs, your spreadsheets are great, Andrew, tell me what I need to know. So here's your headlines. We've been stable, our expenses and our tithes have both averaged out at about $25,000 over the last 16, 17 months. We have a healthy cash balance. We are experiencing and seeing a little bit of a downward trend more recently in tithes. The last 3 months have been about $23,000. The months prior to that, $28,000. And again, our cash on hand is about 4 months, which we're happy about. So going into this blue sky conversation, I want you to have that information and kind of know where we're at. So that's in the back of your mind. I'll stop there. Any questions? Anyone glazed over? Questions from Zoom? Thank you, Bob. I will. Claire, he likes the graphs. Any questions from Zoom? We'll give it just a second. Thank you. I got another one for the graphs. Tell me your name. Charlie. Charlie likes the graphs. Good on Zoom? All right. Over to Steve. The question's the average number of people donating per month. I am actually not able to answer that, and so that you all know, I don't know who's giving or how much they're giving. Steve does not know who's giving or how much they're giving, so that may be something that Rebecca might be able to pull it. She likely doesn't know offhand, but we can get that answer and get that back to everyone. Great question. So, what do we need now? I would say I would highlight again that that we're in a good position. We are watching carefully what's happened in the last couple months and seeing where that trend goes. But we're not at risk of not being able to pay our bills or our staff. We're in good place there. However, this is where I get to ask you that if you are not giving and you call Genesis your home, that maybe this would be the point in time that you would start giving. Or even if you are giving and now is a time where things have settled for you a bit and you kind of know where you're at and you know that you might be able to increase a little bit. I'm just going to be bold and ask that you'd maybe consider that too. One-time gifts are great. You're allowed to make one-time gifts. If you get a bonus in December, go for it. We love it. Monthly gifts are especially helpful because we can do some more of this planning and projecting and know what to kind of count on month to month. So please especially consider a monthly giving plan.
Yeah. All right. I would just underscore too, Andrew talked about it, but I want to repeat it. When he said we're at about 23 over the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, the budget had been, we budgeted for an increase heading toward January 1. So we need to be around 27, 28 per month if we're going to continue to meet our budgeted expenses starting after January 1st. And cards face up on the table. The reason why we're increasing those is so that we can boost Allie's hours up because she is doing more work with teens now. And so I'm not saying that to be weird. I'm just saying that to remind you all of what we talked about before and why the budget is going up. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, thanks. Okay. Thanks for the clarity. Yes, you're welcome, Joe. So 4 questions. Again, this is something that Allie put out for the kids, but as is always the case, whether it be the kids' sermons or anything else put out by Allie, the adults love them too, So I thought we should discuss these. And I think up on the screen, they're going to come up question by question. And at some point, we have some responses that the kids already gave. And so I'm not exactly sure when we have those, but let's go to the first question. This is for anyone on Zoom, anyone in the room. Allie's going to go around with a microphone. And so if you're in the room, go ahead and raise your hand. Also, I had a request come in, and I'm just a yes man at times, that for those of you who just on Zoom, who just feel like you have quite a bit to say, and you can't, and that's a good thing, but you just can't type it all in. Please raise your hand on Zoom, is our way of doing that, or note on Zoom, hey, I would like to talk, and then Kara and Nate, you can let me know, and then we can get that piped in the room. that make sense, everybody? So if you're on Zoom and you'd rather speak it out, that is 100% fine. Okay, first question. This is what God looks like, sounds like to me these days. And please introduce yourself as you are speaking.
I'm Bob Timperley, very British, Premier League.
Manchester United.
Although I do cheer for Manchester.
Okay, let's move it on, Bob. Moving on.
Perennial champions, leaders of championship records.
Keep going,
of all
Bob.
time.
Keep going.
Okay.
We're on a time clock here.
Okay. You know, I'm 74 years old tomorrow, and I've
Bob,
often struggled
you're not
with,
doing it.
Well, I've often struggled with how I see God, and I often felt obligated to see God as a benevolent, human-like image. And I'm just for me today in my life, we always say that God is love. And I've just settled on love being my God. And that's clear and simple and understandable for me, with my mind failing at 74. So.
Thank you, Bob. That was beautiful. Anyone else? I'm looking at Zoom. You did get a little rib from Rajan, who's also a football fan. She said, sure, Bob, cheer for the perennial favorite, Man United. Is it possible to see folks in the church? Yeah, I think we're zoomed out. Of course, you're looking at the back of people's heads, so we do not have another camera in the front of the room. We're sorry. So if you can identify people in the back by the back of their heads, myself, you would be able to because of my bald spot. But other people might be harder. So sorry. Oh, sure. Maybe that's what they meant. Thank you, Pam. So when you're talking, perhaps turn around and face the camera and face the folks. From Joe, human. God is more and more human to me these days, at least from my perspective, from Joe Tim. Thanks, Joe. I love that too. Yeah, Nate back in the back said, is it okay to say I'm afraid that I can't see God the way that I thought I would or the way that I used to? Yeah, thanks, Nate. That's real.
I'm Nico. I think for me, I don't know how to put it, but like along in the grief. I think there's just a lot of grief right now just with the world, and so along with that.
Thanks, Nico. Matt Peterson online, God is less judgy and more accepting for me lately. That's from Danica. Thanks, Danica. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Oh, Rob.
So, my name's Rob. So I was just thinking about, I saw a statistic where, I don't think it was 71% of people think that Facebook makes the world worse, right? So for me, viewing people interacting on social media, for me it's like emulation, right? So if I see someone, people are talking at each other, over each other, being mean to each other, it's seeing someone come across with grace, saying something nice, saying something, kind, even in the face of anger and hatred. To me, that's God being emulated by people.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Beautiful. Anyone else? How do you see God these days? Charlie?
I usually see God as what Zeus looks like. Thunder guy, yeah, I usually see God as that. Even though, if I think harder about it, it's just like an entity that doesn't really have have a body or anything. But when I just imagine in my head, I think of looking like Zeus.
Thanks, Charlie. That's awesome, man. Love it. Do we have any answers on the slides for that from kids? Yeah, here we go. For those of you in the back, God is a spirit, and then looks like a little manger, perhaps, with a.
No, that's Zeus.
Oh, that's Zeus.
That's
Is
Charles
that
Zeus.
is that right here, Zeus, with a lightning bolt?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes. And then we have some cool. I don't know if this is buildings or waves or numbers, mountains and an ocean. That's cool. And then this is a very cool bearded man. Looks like a hipster, perhaps. I love that. That's very cool. Thanks, kids. Let's move on to the next question. One thing I love about our church community is yeah, Reagan, love the guesses, Steve. Yeah, my guesses were not very accurate, but it was still awesome. One thing I love about our church community is from Jenna, the band.
Oh.
Yeah, way to go.
I'm Cassandra. Every time I describe us, it's that we're like a ragtag bunch of lost toys, which is said in the most loving way, but I don't know how else to describe us.
That's awesome, Cassandra. Bill and Kim, Gabby, diversity and inclusiveness. Rajan, who we are individually and collectively. Laura Groneweg, the people who are open and genuine. Also Cassandra, and her ragtag toy reference. Got a big thumbs up. From Sarah Lightbuddy. Jenna, I was actually thinking I love the way we sing together in worship, no matter what the new song Will and I throw at you. Jenny Gullickson, so many things. How real we are, how we laugh, how we mourn, how we value curiosity and compassion. Oh, and then I missed one maybe. Okay, from Reagan Granger, you're truly met wherever you are with no judgment. I missed that one. Thanks, Reagan.
So that was Reagan. I'm Regan. I have a couple, just being able to be seen where I'm at and know that it's okay and supported, and that questioning doesn't come with shame.
Thanks, Regan. Joe Tim, I love that I don't have to attend a service to feel connected to you all. Yay. Thanks, Joe. That's awesome.
Well, I'm Shannon, and I'm Joe's wife, and I was going to say the same thing, so thanks, Joe.
Great minds.
Hello. Oh, hello. All right. Sound guy doesn't know how to use a microphone. Kind of funny. I'm Dave Schlenk, and I wrote our acceptance of everyone where they are, and our humility and knowing that we can do better for our members and our neighbors.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm Mary, and ever since the first day, the word that comes to mind when I think about how it feels to be together with you is sweet. There is such a sweetness to this group and to just the essence of us. And the other thing is, I keep remembering that when Steve and I were birthing this and talking about what we were dreaming about, we said to each other that we wanted this place, this community, to be a cup of cold water for people. No pressure. You could come as you are. And I love that that really is, people come and feel safe. So the intention and the hope, I think, is being born out. And I love that.
Thanks, Mary.
My name is Enoch, and I should have volunteered to go before Mary. But I love that none of us think that we know the right answer.
Thanks, Enoch. We're getting some amens here online, so thanks for everybody.
Enoch, I'm going to go after you because of the fact that the word I was going to say is I think we're all learners, and there's a leveling of we all have something to learn, and that feels really sweet because we get to do that together.
For those of you who recognize the voice, but was like, who's that? That was Becky Patton. Thanks, Becky. Anybody else? Joan.
I'm Joan. I love on Sunday morning the sunshine coming through the windows and it sparkles. I love that I can walk here. I love that, Steve Weens, you have always spoken the truth, whether it's easy or hard, and your heart is super open, so I trust you. I love that you ask hard questions and invite all of the voices to speak into it, and we don't get shut down when we have a different opinion. We sit down and find a way to talk it through. I love that we are asking who are our neighbors and what is their life about? And we're looking at ways to go out and meet them where they are. And I love that we, meaning you staff, shout out for Kara and her creative bags. Find amazing ways for us to gather in creative ways and be together in the ways that we can. So yeah.
Thanks, Joan. From Hannah online, we can be ourselves and not what we think we need to be or something fake. Thanks, Hannah.
I have a couple last-minute addition from kids that didn't make it on the screen, but these are from the Kelly kids. The wiggle space, especially Magna tiles, yes. I like Eucharist and treats on the lawn, cookies on the lawn, and singing. And then, am I maybe gonna frame this? Yeah, probably. But this is from Agnes. You probably can't see it, but it's a picture of me. And she says, Mrs. Allie making kid sermons. Oh, thanks, Agnes, wherever you are.
Okay, yeah. This is some of the other ones from the kids. Dad plays with, Allie, what does this say?
Dad plays with me and other kids while eating donuts.
Yeah. I think donuts came in pretty high, right, on the what do I love about church from the kids. And then here's a cool picture of church, just a bunch of cool people hanging out together. Very cool. And then, just, I don't know, a treetop, green sky, a fortress. This is like Rorschach, you know? Again, donuts, yeah. And then this is just like a kingdom almost with the sea in the middle and I don't know what that is on the bottom, but I love it. Atlantis, yes. So I love hearing from our kids. You know, in congregational meetings, I've been at churches for 26 years. We don't hear a lot from kids in congregational meetings, so I love that we create a real space to hear from kids. Let's move on to the next question. Oh, sorry. See if there's anything else. The next question is, one thing I miss about our church community is. And then here's someone online, Rajan. What I miss is how it felt to be together before COVID, and then how it felt when we were all on Zoom together pre-COVID vaccine. It's so hard to do hybrid in a manner that feels like it used to, or for those of us who are still on Zoom. And I'd be willing to speak to this during question 4. Thanks, Rajan. We look forward to that. I agree. I remember when we were setting up hybrid with the guy that we contracted to help us buy all of our stuff. He goes, welcome to hybrid. A way to do both worse, both online and in person. And, I was like, but I agree. I just agree. Hybrid has been really hard. What else? Okay, and just getting a lot of, yep, second. Amen, amen, amen. From Reagan, Jenny, Kara, Julia Barczyk, Kristen Powell. Yep. Hybrid's hard. I miss being together. And I'm just underlining it. But yeah, even how it felt when we were all online, there was a togetherness. And then all in person, a togetherness. And it's harder now, for sure. What else?
I'm going to try not to break everyone's ears this time. Okay, Dave Schlenk again. Kind of on the same theme as the hybrid is hard, but I think something about maybe why it's hard is that the thing that, you know, Zoom has chat, and that's nice, but that's a relatively small space and time in which you can communicate with other people, and you're also supposed to be paying attention to things that are going on. And I think without having, you know, obviously everyone loves donuts, but our time of donuts in the lawn without frostbite are coming to a close for the year, I think. And I think having a space for people to communicate and be vulnerable with each other and express needs and struggles and things is just limited when there's no way to talk to people other than Facebook, and I think most of us are trying to spend less time on Facebook. So that's my thing.
Thanks, Dave. I'm going to catch up with a few online. Bill and Kim Gabby, I really miss seeing everyone in person. I can't wait until more folks feel comfortable being in person again. Matt Peterson, actually from Sloan Peterson, I miss the old kids' rooms. And then from Matt Peterson, closing my eyes to hear the choir during worship with the full congregation singing. Yeah. What else? What do I miss?
Coffee.
I mean, that's singing without a mask. Yeah, singing without a mask. Thanks, Jane. Coffee. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, maybe coffee is negotiable. I don't know. Maybe that's needs to come back. It could be a proclamation of sorts. Sherry Lee, I miss the smiles, no masks, and the hugs from George Lee. Yeah. And then Bill Gabby's just agreeing, for sure, Matt. I really miss the worship songs with everyone singing. Yeah. This is from John Powell, the bread and grape juice without the peel. Oh, that double peel is my undoing. I mean, I've done it a bunch of times, and my fingers have never felt so fat, you know, that double peel. Some of you are like, what are you talking about? I kind of want to say, come just check it out once, just to get real frustrated. At the Eucharist. I'm frustrated at the bread and the wine. What? Okay. Yes. Allie, we got Matt over there. Joe Tim said, it's the devil's communion.
I'm Matt. Not to put pressure on you, Becky, but the thing I miss most is you reading the Eucharist prayer and standing in this room. It just is a calming thing, and it's a welcoming thing. Bree and I got married about 3.5 weeks ago, and we read the prayer before our dinner service. It wasn't the same, but it just meant a lot to us, and it means a lot to me to hear you say it while I'm in here.
Thanks, Matt. Getting some snaps over here.
Hey, I'm Katie Schlenk. I think I miss, thank you, honey. Did I put that? We all wrote it down before dinner, and we wrote our ideas down. I don't know if I wrote this down. As somebody who values like security and safety, I think it's what I miss is being able to predict who's going to be here. Myself, most of all, actually. But that constancy of always kind of knowing the same group plus or minus the 10 who are at the lake, etc.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Thanks, Katie. I resonate with that too. Catching up on the Zoom, Jenny Gullickson misses serving communions of people. Rajan said, many of us miss what we can't control, so let's figure out what we can control. Sarah Lightbody says, miss you, Katie. Anyone else?
I miss the kids eating the leftovers of the Eucharist.
Oh, yeah, that used to be a big hot mess. I loved it.
I know, wasn't it great?
Yeah.
And this is a strange thing for an introvert to say, but I miss our big things like 4th of July and Christmas party and vacation and just the energy of all of us together. But I think most of all, right now in this season, I miss the people that aren't with us anymore for various reasons, the people who just are gone. I see a lot of faces in my mind, and I miss them.
Me too. Anyone else? Chris and Powell missed the prayer ministry during communion. Bill Gabby just yes, yes, yes. Chris and Powell, yes. I think saying yes to you, Mary, perhaps. Let's go to the fourth question, unless I don't want to cut anyone off. Oh, yep.
We have the kids
Oh, here
ones
we go.
and some other kids ones. Going to class to play and create with friends, going to classes.
Yeah, and then I miss all my friends who used to be here. And then this is glorious. I'm not sure what this is or why someone has crossed out, but it looks like a 3 or 4 headed someone over here and a tree face. And
We were told they were like zombies / aliens.
yeah,
So, yeah.
totally.
I miss that too.
I miss the zombies and aliens. Big time in the classes with the doors. Oh, I love it. Okay, let's move on to question 4. This last question before. And then I wonder, Rajan is asking to be unmuted. So can we do that back there, gang? Okay, Rajan, we'll let you know when you're good to go.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Rajan.
So good to see you. I just want to speak briefly to what we could do differently because, you know, I'm theatrical and emotional, but I'm also pragmatic. And so one of the things that's a reality right now is some of us need to be on Zoom. Health, age, babies, you know, because of no kids, whatever it is. Some of us have to be on Zoom. And if you listen to Mary, when she and Steve started this whole thing, and I was at the first service and all that stuff, and Mary spoke to the beginning of how they started with such intention and hope. And then we all talked about what we love about Genesis, and we talked about what we miss. And so what we know for sure is who we are and what we stand for and how much we care about each other. And so when we talk about something I wish we could do differently, it's with all the respect in the world. With all the respect in the world, those of us on Zoom know we are valued as much as those of us who are not on Zoom. Can you still hear me? Okay, I'm frozen, but can you hear me? Okay, thank you. And we know we're valued as much, but it's so hard because like I think about all my friends who taught last year and they had to teach kids who were at home at the same time they were teaching kids in the classroom. And as your guy said, when you had to buy all your equipment for hybrid, he said, now you're going to do 2 things poorly or whatever it is he said. And I wish I'd combed my hair. Oh, I'm just frozen in a bad spot. I got to get rid of that. Okay. So anyway, I just want to say that that a few times after services, I have emailed Will and Steve with an idea about how things from Zoom could look differently. And they were so incredibly open and you know, they just little things, not even worth taking up the time, but they're so receptive to that. So I just want us all to think about the fact that having some people on Zoom and some people in person is a fact. We want everyone to feel valued. And we want the people who are on Zoom would love to see the people in the congregation maybe more than we do. And I don't know how that works because we can't afford another camera. And even if we could, we don't have enough volunteers. And we've already talked about that. So anyway, I just want to say that I will be happy to work with anybody on helping us make Zoom feel as, as wonderful as we possibly can. All respect to everyone who's working so hard. Thank you for listening.
All right, so we're doing the question, what should we do differently? One thing I wish we could do differently is.
Maybe we could start with the kids, since it's
All right, start
to break
with kids.
the ice. And I'll also add, oh shoot, there's one more. Put more toys in the wiggle space, car tracks. I think that's very easy to do.
Yeah, coffee and car tracks.
Yep, there it is.
I mean, I wish we could not wear masks. Amen to that. And then cafeteria. Maybe we're remembering the parlor downstairs and the community lunches and stuff. The cafeteria, that's great. I love that. Maybe that's a little dab of ketchup on a tray or something, and then the cafeteria. Balloons, I'm not sure. What is it, Target? Oh, they're playing a game, yeah, like, it's very cool. And they're bullseyeing, totally, so that's great. And then more donut variety would be helpful. Yep. Can't disagree with that. Katie has something to say, Allie.
Do you want to say it? I ever wishes we had a Beyblader stadium here.
We could do that.
Yeah.
We have small Beyblades.
Yeah.
Of one of those courts.
They're very,
Don't we,
very
babe?
cool.
Well, it's a game called Beyblades with kids. And
It's
this
like
little
fancy tops.
arena with these cars that you kind of zip out. It's super cool. I don't know if we still have ours, but if we do, we could donate it because our boys are like 20 and 21 now. It's been a long pandemic. What else?
To complete my thought on the nobody wants to be on Facebook anymore. What if we had something that was not Facebook, but was an online community of some kind that was asynchronous and secure and not out to make money off of our thoughts?
I love that. And by the way, Cassandra, our elder secretary, is taking notes on all this stuff. So this is not just, we don't have big whiteboards and stuff, but we do have some very good notes being taken, which we can reflect back on. She's the core reporter, yeah. Katie, you have something else?
Well, as the person who took those notes at the Schlenk dinner tonight, Dave had also just mentioned that the Facebook group kind of used to serve that purpose. So it's kind of much more, and it's not as active now, and that could reflect many different things, but there was more of a sense of connection on the Facebook group in years past.
True. Catching up online from Bill and Kim, Gabby. We've been in person for several weeks, and it's been awesome. Hope that others will be comfortable joining in person soon. Rajan, there's lots of requests for Rajan to say it again. She said, I can say it again, but not type it. I'm not on Facebook anymore to add to the group. So Rajan, if you'd be willing to try to say it again, we would love to hear it again.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Rajan.
Okay, did I just talk too loud or with too much passion? Is that why?
So perfect. It's perfection.
All right, so I'm just going to tell you again that I'm emotional and theatrical, but I'm also very pragmatic, and that I just need to talk about how we can do hybrid potentially better. I also said things like how we all talked about how much we love each other and respect each other and allow each other grace. And Mary mentioned how our church was started with such intention. And let me look at my notes. I'm trying not to move in case that's what messed it up. Mary talked about how we started with such intention and hope, and I was there at the first service, and just the whole thing about how we trust each other and how it's okay if some of us have to be on Zoom and some of us want to be in person, and we all want to be in person, but because of age or health conditions or infants who don't have a place to be or all those things, Zoom is a reality. Steve mentioned that the guy who came out to give to sell the equipment for hybrid said, "Welcome to doing two things poorly." And it harkens back to all my friends teaching last year during COVID, when mostly when they were teaching to half the class at home at the same time they were teaching half the class in person. And if that's not impossible, I don't know what is. And I just want to, even though I'm hoping we can do things differently, I want to be sure that I have all the understanding in the world how hard that would be. I want to, oh gosh, I said so many other good things that I hadn't written down. I mentioned that how after a couple of Zoom services that I watched on Zoom, I texted Will and Steve, and I had some suggestions for how I felt it would feel better for people who are on Zoom. And they were so receptive, I mean, immediately receptive, and saw what I was saying and made these little tweaks. And just the whole idea that we know that people on Zoom are loved and valued absolutely as much as the people in person. Unfortunately, it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't feel like that, because we know that, but it's not the same experience, and that's impossible. And so I guess I'm just saying that I know it's impossible, but there are still things that we can do, and I'd be happy to have some opinions about that. So I don't know. I think it was better the first time, but I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Reggie Ann. I thought it was great. Yeah, everyone's saying you did great, Reggie Ann. Others, one thing that I wish we could do differently is
Hi. Hi, my name is Peter Rodriguez. So there are two things that I wish we could do. One of them is somehow kind of categorize where people are in general with their lives, like their interest, so we can kind of look for those people. They have things in common. I was just thinking, two of my best friends that I met here in Genesis have small kids, and that's always nice to connect because I know that they are going to be kind of in the same space as me. So others might be interested on something like that too. And another thing is on Facebook, we usually see people, I've seen people asking for some sort of help, and sometimes are things really simple. It would be nice to kind of encourage people to just look for more help on if it's on Facebook or anywhere else, so people can get involved and kind of connect, yeah. Some sort of way like that.
Thanks, Peter. Super helpful. Okay, we're going to do one more, Cassandra, then we need to move on to our next segment.
Hello, Cassandra here again. One thing that I've been kind of ruminating on is having a space where we can just be, that people could bring their kids or their laptops or their coffee or their book and just kind of hang out, because I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Sundays somehow, and it's very scheduled, and there's expectations, and some people have weirdness, and so sometimes you just want another space other than your house, where you've been staring at a computer in your house for maybe 2 years, as a different space to be in too.
Thanks, Cassandra. Okay, yeah, Joe, go ahead, Joe.
Hello, friends.
Hey, Joe.
This might be a little radical, but I've spent some time thinking about this. And I just wonder, given the days that we're living in and just the shifting that's happening in uppercase C church, is a weekly service really what serves this community best, given the amount of energy and effort that is required to put together a service every week. What does it look like for us to consider doing more of the things like Mary talked about missing, the big things, and then looking at small clusters of communities that are our people that we see every week and that we have community with, and then we get together and we have a big celebration monthly, and then we look for things that we can do in the neighborhood and in our community. For me, since I was a teenager, I've wanted church to look something very different than what it does even currently, and that for me would be a step towards that. So I know that's a lot for probably a lot of people to take in, but I'll just say that that's how I feel, is I don't have the time to give to a weekly service, but something that's a little bit more epic perhaps, but also less frequent would be something that I could participate in a different way.
Thanks, Joe. I think that is the kind of blue sky thinking that we are open to and need to be open to. I'm going to catch up with the online folks, then I'm going to hand it over to Pam. Sorry, I went a little overtime, Pam. But it's their fault. They had too much to say, really. Kidding. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm kidding. We can laugh about. Whew. Okay, Sarah Lightbetty says, Sundays feel so fast. Reagan Granger, I personally feel a lot of guilt whenever there are requests for more volunteers, and it seems like it's tough to run the in-person, but we are going to be online for a while. It's hard to know how to be a part of things. Totally. Well, thanks, everybody, for engaging in those 4 questions. I think it's so important, and it's going to feel even awkward to now move into some sort of dreaming together, because that conversation isn't done, of course. So try to pretend that we're just stretching time out, and we're going to have these conversations more and more as the days and weeks go by. But I think it's so important to name reality, name your current reality, and that's what these last few minutes were all about. So thank you so much for being honest. Thank you so much for all of your thoughts. And I want to hand it over to Pam. Thanks, Pam.
Is that on? Okay. So that was amazing. I can't tell you. It even chokes me up because we're all literally in this together. The things that you're bringing up, the ideas, even Joe, you're saying, this is a really radical idea. We've talked and mused and been thinking about a lot of things like this among, people that I've been talking to anyway. And we really are all together on this. And what that makes me understand and realize and really believe is we're not having an identity crisis. We know exactly who we are. We know each other, we love each other, we love being together. We're deeply rooted in some values and beliefs that we have. It's just that the world has changed around us, and our patterns have changed, and our expectations and our safety levels have changed. So much has changed around us that we're trying to figure out not who we are, but how we can engage together, how we can be Genesis. And I just think it's really important that we understand that, and you all just confirm, I was already going to say that, and I listened to all of you and went, it's true. We do love each other, and we do know who we are. As I was thinking about that a couple days ago, it had been a while since I'd gone through the mission and the values, the vision, and I think it's worth revisiting some of the things that are in our values that were written at the beginning of time for Genesis, and yet it's as if they were written for such a time as this. One of our values, the first value, is simplicity. So as we think about how to be together, and maybe a new framework for how we are together, one of the things, our value is We want to stay responsive to what's important. So we'll order our lives and our community in ways that leave margin and space, where we live within our limits. We want to be intentional and wise in our choices and our commitments. I mean, does that sound like it was written for all the things we're talking about right now? How do we order ourselves and our time together and the ways that we engage? Conversation, that's what we're doing tonight. Rhythms. We will honor the Sabbath. We'll follow some liturgy, and we'll learn spiritual practices. We'll be countercultural by creating space to hear from God in our lives and in our worship gatherings. Like in the beginning of Genesis, the founders of Genesis who were writing this were giving us permission today to do things different if we want. We're still us, we're still Genesis, but we can envision a different way to be together. We'll follow the seasons of the church calendar, finding daily, weekly, and yearly rhythms that help us stay rooted to God. So we can do, I wrote in the margins, we can do new things in new ways, and we can do old things in new ways. Restoration is another value. And I'm not going to read all of these, but just some words that sprang to life to me. God breathes life into us so that we can be a healing presence in the world. So how do we best do that in today's culture? And then attentiveness. We believe God is actively at work at all times, places, making all things new. And because we want to join in that work, we'll spend time praying for and seeking a restored way of seeing, hearing, and sensing God, each other, and our own souls. That's what we're doing here, seeking a restored way, given, what we're facing. Ordinariness, delight. So this is my favorite one, and the one I want to at least kind of close my words with. We want to respond to what is beautiful and good with wonder, celebration, joy, gratitude, and love. We will smile and laugh and enjoy life and each other. What delights us will lead us into doing all kinds of good in the world. Yes, please. And if we're honest, as much as we love each other and we talked about, all those questions, I wonder if we can all, or any of us, actually say we're delighted by how we do church lately. With each other, maybe. We love each other, but the how? Maybe not so much. But we love us. We're delighted with each other. So can we find new, delightful ways to engage with one another and out in our community? Can we find ways to delight in what is good and beautiful in the world? And can we invite others into that delight? Steve, were we going to have more sharing? Was that thoughts, questions?
There's not, you can just repeat it, but there was a bunch of people who said, I echo you, Joe, I validate the idea. I'm not sure I have the capacity for a weekly service. So a lot of that, and then Rajan just said, I love us.
So a lot of echoing for what Joe said, not necessarily margin for a weekly, but still want to be together in different ways. And then Rajan said, I love us. Yes, please. Let's get you the mic.
I'm Becky. I always forget to introduce myself, but I think one of the things we're talking about is we're kind of on the precipice of there's a transition. As a nation, we've transitioned. As a world, we've transitioned, and there have been changes that none of us wanted, but we've had to find ways to create and to live in that. And I think that's really important to note. And if we try, I think my concern is if we try to be who we were, we're going to miss out on who we might be able to be. And Genesis is about new beginnings, and I wonder if Genesis is in need of a new beginning, in a way of looking at this, of going, who are we now post-pandemic? Because it has changed us all. And we are disconnected some from, like with Zoom, but I love looking at all, I guess I should look this way at you guys that are on Zoom, right? But there is that sense that we are one, but we're very different than we were before. And so I wonder, and change is always hard, transition is hard, but I wonder if if we could look forward in a way with curiosity and compassion for ourselves, we can honor who we've been, and then we can explore who we're becoming. Because it might be different. And that can feel both scary and it can feel exciting, I think.
This is Nate, the tech guy in the back. So sorry, people on Zoom, you can't see me. Just looking at, I have a little outline here, and there's the question of that living more fully into the values in our mission. And as I'm just looking over the mission again, to become ordinary apprentices of Jesus. It's the first line. I think there's so many ways that we could interpret that and take that, that it's overwhelming. But if we picked like 3, and I know we have these goals and these relationships we're building, and I love that we're doing that. And I think we are doing that through that kind of apprenticeship of Jesus. But just becoming ordinary apprentices, I don't think of anything when I think of that. And I love that. And I think the new beginning maybe that we could be called into with everything going on is how we live out kind of all the ideas that have been brought up, because we're all a part of this community. You know, what Joe said, it's not radical, it's beautiful. You know, it's what Mary said and what she remembers, it's beautiful, it's part of who we are. And yeah, I guess I'm open for everything. And I do feel like, you know, especially people on staff, I mean, you guys have this hard job of like, we don't know what to expect to give people to expect. So we're going to do the best we can. And really, everyone on staff has. And it's amazing how hard we've worked to kind of transition to this. But I want to invite everyone here just because I feel like there's still a little tension, a little hesitation maybe. And of course, it's a forum, so it's awkward, and no one really wants to speak their mind. But, you know, I think we need a little bit of big new ideas. And they'll consist of baby steps, but I would love, I guess I don't have anything, but I would love to encourage, even beyond tonight's conversation, you know, any idea that people have of how being an ordinary apprentice of Jesus, what could look like. That's what I'm curious about, I guess.
Thank you, Nate. And that's exactly what we're hoping for out of tonight. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what I'm hearing from all of you. I had the honor of meeting with the staff on Tuesday morning and talking about some of this and talking about some ideas that Steve and I had shared. And one of the things I said to them is we've given them an impossible job over the last months, because we've asked them to keep doing the thing in the framework that we've always done it before, the paradigm that isn't really working anymore. And I think some of us don't really want anymore in a lot of ways. Even maybe the every Sunday meetings, worship, church. But we've said just, keep doing it. And they knocked it out of the park. I mean, they did great, creative, new ways of us trying to be together, and both on Zoom and in person, the hybrid and all of those. And yet, I think we all know it's not. I mean, Steve said to me in a one-on-one conversation, I hope it's okay if I share this. It feels like slowly kind of bleeding to death, because it's just not the way it's always been. And it's been hard for the staff to know how to keep trying to do what we gave them to do in a framework that just doesn't work anymore. So I would suggest in the next, in the coming weeks, it's almost as if we take the framework of Genesis that we had and just lay it out on the table and kind of sift through and, keep what's good, what we love. That's why these questions are so important. What do we love? And what just doesn't work anymore? What could we try differently? And we can do that. We're us. We love each other. It's just us. We can try what we want. We don't have to do it the way that we've always done it or the way big church has always done it. We don't have to meet every Sunday if we decide. Maybe we'll just meet one blowout Sunday a month, and everybody comes and it's longer and we have a meal and we do all kinds of fun stuff. Maybe. And then we use that extra time, and the staff uses the extra time to do other things that we dream up. I mean, we can do what we want, and so we want to hear what you want. And I think it's an exciting time. And I think that it's very unusual that we have the bank account that we do, given the times that we've been living in. And what if that money is for such a time as this? That we've already got the financial freedom to try some different things, to do some different things. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I think we do. But we need it to be all of us, because it can't be, Steve and I sitting in my living room trying to design the new paradigm for Genesis. It might be pretty good, but I don't think it would be great like we would do if we're all in it together. So, Allie.
I just have had some thoughts flowing in my brain. Hello, everyone, if you can see me. Okay, sorry. But I have two separate thoughts. For the Bible nerds, especially looking at you, Dan, but I just keep thinking about Israel as they were forced into exile, and just what a shock that was. And literally everything they knew was stolen from them, flipped upside down. They were in a foreign land, separated from family and from the familiar. And they were that way for 70 years. And okay, let's hope it's not going to be this way for 70 years. But one, finding a strange comfort in that, and this is the story of the people of God. And when they came back together, some came back to the land and some stayed where they were. And then they had to find a new way of being the people of God in their old space, I don't know, and in the diaspora where everyone else is. And so we see this creativity of the people of God. I think that's just really cool. And yeah, I could go on and on. But then I also think of my good friend Walter Brueggemann. He's not really my good friend. I just one of my theologian crushes. But he does a lot of work with the Psalms, and his kind of whole framework with the Psalms is that it's like the Psalms of orientation, disorientation, and reorientation, and how Scripture walks us through this process that as humans in life we go through over and over and over again, where we are oriented in what's familiar, and something disorients us into the unfamiliar. And then eventually we are reoriented and have this new familiar, this new normal thing. So that's it.
Thank you, Allie. Any last thoughts? And I can't see Zoom input or questions.
Just one call out for Julie Barczyk. It was beautiful and grounding to hear those values again, fresh from a few minutes ago. And then,
Great.
I did have one thing.
Mary.
Yeah, Mary.
It's like the voice is disembodied. I'm like, who's got a microphone?
Where is it? You know, when Steve and I, we go for walks and we talk and we dream and we wonder and wonder about what's happening here. And obviously we're in a new season. And some of the questions, I feel like if I were to boil it down that we ask, that would be so great in some way to have answers to, are who's here now? And what do these people need? And what do these people want? So that it could be more honed and specific. Who's here? And what do these people want and need? It feels like information we don't quite have. So big ideas are so welcome and so good and so needed, but for those who aren't big idea people, even just to hear, what are you wanting? Why are you coming
Donuts.
to church and what are you looking for?
Donuts. Yeah. Well, I think it's about the time we said that we would gather together in prayer. But just know that Cassandra's taken notes. We're listening. We're hearing. And this is just the beginning of that listening. Hopefully, you'll think about this. You'll sleep about it. You'll talk about it over the dinner table at home. And things will bubble up. And I hope you'll send those in. It doesn't matter who you send them to. Send them to Steve, me, Kara, Allie, just to any of us, any of the elders, or call us. I love to have coffee. Come over to my house and we'll sit and have coffee if you'd rather talk about it than send an email. However you want to communicate, use your, method of choice and let us hear from you so that we can enter into this new way of being Genesis together. And it's something that we all embrace and we all love and are delighted about. Let's reach for delight. Okay, so I don't know where can we gather up here?
I don't think we have to be in, well, maybe we can. Can we all gather up here in a circle? We don't have to hold hands. I know that's.
But we do have to sing Kumbaya, don't we? Oh, we got it. Hi. Okay. I think we have enough time that we could just pop up in prayer if you've got something that you want to say, shout it out, and then I'll close us. Does that sound good? Well, for Zoom.
Sorry, Zoomers, we see you. So maybe those in the room, if you want to contribute a prayer or words or whatever. And then I'll run the mic around so Zoom can hear. God, thank you that we're not in this alone. And not only just figuring out how to be together as a church, but also just regular life, that we don't have to do any of it alone. Yeah. Andrew requested that we sing the doxology, which I like it. Oh no. Okay, Zoomers, ready? Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God, all creatures here below. Praise God above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
I just, Lord, it is good to be together. And we just look forward to finding new and delightful ways to be together and to invite others into that delight. We love you and we give you all the praise and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yes, Laura, I see you singing on Zoom.
Thank you all.